When you care about current affairs, it's on the OShow.
Welcome to the OShow, Canada's current affairs show with strong opinions. And joining me on this special presentation of the podcast is none other than Bonnie Critchley. She is, of course, the combat veteran, the horse breeder, the patriotic Canadian, the proud Albertan who inspired the nation this summer when she decided to take the longest of all long shots and go up against the leader of the Canadian Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre, when he decided that he was going to drop into her riding of Battle-River Crowfoot and take the easiest possible seat in the country to get back into Parliament after he was beaten badly by Bruce Fanjoy in Carleton during the election. It's been only hours since the by-election ended. Bonnie Critchley, you went through some shit to do this. Was it worth it?
It was absolutely worth it. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I didn't come off the campaign trail until half an hour before the blackout period began. As of midnight Monday morning, we were no longer allowed to campaign per Elections Canada rules. I rolled in at 11:30 at night, having had to change another flat tire on the side of the road.
Well, you had all of Canada watching your campaign. I've heard from people from coast to coast to coast who were just fascinated by how somebody who doesn't have a political background, who wasn't really into politics, decided, you know what? I'm going to take on a guy who's been a politician for 20 years, one of the top politicians in the country, the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, because he thinks he can just, come into my riding and take the job of the guy who got elected so he can get back to Parliament. When you did that, a lot of people were skeptical, of course, and thought, is Bonnie even going to make a difference? Based on the results last night, you look like, he came in about where he might have if you hadn't run. Do you think that you made a difference?
My team is 5 people and a few dozen volunteers. And I took 10% of the vote, which is more than the registered parties combined. Right? So not only did I take a large chunk of the vote share, now you also have to look at how many people actually voted. He got a lot less votes than Mr. Keurig did. The percentage might look similar, but he got a lot less votes because people were just so flippin' tired of coming out.
Yeah.
And I still took 10% of that. And we'll see because the last poll hasn't actually reported in. So we'll see what the final point percentages are. But it boils down to I took 10% of the vote and I'm nobody. And here's the thing. I'm a nobody who stood up, and suddenly nobody's everywhere are going to stand up. Because what I just did, and what my team just did was showed the country and put the politicians on alert. They work for us, not the other way around. And if I can pull this off in 3 months, what can somebody with some actual backing and some actual experience in the arena do?
What is it that you were hearing from neighbors about how they feel about the Conservative Party federally? Because last time we spoke, you said that it's changed quite a bit and people aren't necessarily finding in it what their grandparents or their parents used to find in the Canadian Conservative Party. Did you hear more of that when you were out talking to Albertans?
I did, and there had been a shift after the Stettler Forum. And then the CPC started campaigning hard Sunday, and they continued doing so throughout the blackout period. So I'd be a little interested to know in how much in fines they're going to owe the Elections Canada. And I mean, they call themselves the Party of Integrity, and they have the least integrity, and that makes me sad. I want back the party we had before, and I'm not the only one. People are tired of the anger. They're tired of the bip, 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 bip. Driving around town, putting in signs, driving in the middle of nowhere. People are honking at me and giving me far more thumbs up than the other one. People are stopping and asking for signs. So yes, I actually was quite surprised with the results last night, but I'm still super, super proud of my team and the folks who did show up to vote.
Well, it's interesting. I was doing a panel the day of the election in Toronto, a radio show, a big show in the morning, and they had a series of clips of people that were, talked to by the media in Battle-River Crowfoot. And I think four out of the five were talking about voting for you, that
Hmm.
because you represented them locally. And today I've seen a lot of jokes online, Bonnie, about, now that Poilievre got the vote in the easiest conservative riding in the country, he's just going to fly right out of Alberta and won't be back to represent your province. So how do you think Albertans are going to feel if Poilievre, goes back to Ottawa to do his Ottawa politician thing in Stornoway and ignores Battle-River Crowfoot?
I don't know because, like I said, the result did surprise me because it's not just picking and choosing of clips. I didn't limit who talked to me, who asked me questions. I answered the hard questions from people who were very much not my supporters.
Mhm.
Um, I think one of the most interesting ones was having dinner with at one of the local Hutterite colonies, right? That was a very, very interesting, and they very firmly believe in the old school conservatives, not this new divisive populist crap,
Right.
right? And they're not the only ones, but people are just so tired. And when you're tired, you run on autopilot.
Mhm.
And when things are made even more difficult to try something new, i.e., vote for an independent, then yes, people are going to run on autopilot and just do what they've always done.
But I think you've awakened something, as you mentioned. I mean, Bruce Fanjoy recognized that Pierre Poilievre was not representing Carleton the way that he thought it deserved to be represented. But he
Mhm.
also managed to get the nomination for the Liberal Party, and he had 2 years of lead time to work up towards the next federal election. You didn't have the backing of one of the parties. You went out as an independent, and you did it in a couple of months. And Bonnie, just on our show, yeah, 3 months, and just on our show alone, just on one social media platform, I think we hit over 1 million views of your clips. And that's big in a country of only 44 million people. So that tells me, Bonnie, that you hit a nerve in this country. You hit a nerve, and I have my ideas of what that is based on all the feedback I get from OShow listeners and viewers. But what do you think it is that you hit? What do you think it is that got Canadians coast to coast to coast to say, I want to back this Bonnie Critchley, this nonpartisan person, even if they're partisan?
Um, Actual truth, actual integrity, because this is what it looks like. The disinformation campaign against me was massive, and it took a toll on my numbers. I know it took a toll on my numbers. The biggest one is apparently I'm an NDP in disguise.
I heard you were a liberal in disguise.
Ah, yes, yes. Um, at the same time, I have Liberal and NDP voters yelling at me because I want to roll back the Trudeau era firearms regulations because they are so haphazard and slapdash and nonsensical. I'm not saying free for all Second Amendment. No, this is Canada. We need firearm control. We need gun control, but not performative, ridiculous things that just make absolutely no sense because it looks scary. So that always made me giggle. The big one was because of the Camrose Forum. I walked by as Catherine Swampy was doing an update to a previous video where all of the candidates had been in one of her TikToks. And I was walking by, she filmed one, and she's like, he actually showed up. And I'm like, yeah, he actually showed up. But no, that's proof that I'm working with the NDP.
Well, from the disinformation sphere across this country, as soon as they fired up the jets on you, I realized you were making a difference, right? And
Exactly.
you made him work for his seat. You told me on the O show back in, I think when we talked in the end of June or something, Bonnie, or early July, that you might not beat him. It was a long shot, but that you were going to make him earn it. So he couldn't just come in like a carpetbagger and assume that your neighbors were just going to say, okay, in this democracy, he got fired by Carleton, he lost nationally, but he can get this guy who won the seat locally to leave and come in and just take it. And you thought that
and be
was
coronated. He wanted a coronation, and he didn't get one.
Hells no, he did not. And I think what
No.
you said is that it has now lit a fire for other people across the country to say, wait a second, do I have to accept politics as usual? Do I have to go with the big name politician just because they've always had the power or they've always had the riding? I mean, even locally, Bonnie, with the local elections that are coming up, I think you've inspired people to look at these incumbents and say, just because their name has been around for decades and they have a lot of backing, doesn't mean that I should just give up and just surrender my democracy to this person or this power structure.
Exactly. And like I've said it before, I'll say it again. If we always do what we've always done, we'll always get what we've always gotten.
Right.
And I'm tired of what we've always gotten. So I stepped up and said, enough is enough is enough.
Yeah.
And yes, I know people, I hate to use the word inspired, but I have inspired people, and I am so glad to hear it, because here's a ripple. Let's make this ripple into a tsunami.
And you had one of the biggest geographic ridings, I'm sure, in the country at 52,000 square kilometers. I've been out to Battle-River Crowfoot. It is huge. And it took a lot of legwork. It took a lot of horsepower, pardon the pun, to get out there. It's not like you could just drop into some big, dense populace and just do big events and you could see everybody. You had to do the legwork. You had to get out there. And now that you've made the name imprint, now that people know Bonnie Critchley's got my back, that Bonnie Critchley is, cares about Alberta, cares about Canada. What is the future for Bonnie Critchley? Are you going to go back to horse breeding in retirement, or are you going to stay in the game?
We'll see what happens. I mean, Bruce Vanjoy had what, 4 square kilometers to work with? I had 52,000. It is not the biggest. I believe there's one bigger in Saskatchewan, and then none of it, I believe, is an entire riding. I'd have to double check that.
Right.
So, but I'm not done yet.
Hmm.
I'm going to sleep for a week, and then I'm going to look at the future.
Yeah.
But I'm not done yet.
Well, I got to tell you, I was at a brunch in Ottawa on Sunday morning with a bunch of people in Bruce Fanjoy's riding, and they were talking about you. And they wanted to know how I thought you were going to do. Because I think you're right. You've connected this kind of theme right across this country that Canadians, we're at a tough time, Bonnie. And I also spent my weekend worrying about what was happening with Ukraine and the meetings with Vladimir Putin and the risk to them and their sovereignty and the risk to our sovereignty when we hear members of Trump's team talking about Canada like Ukraine, right? They actually have tied us together in thought about, how are we acting? Does Trump have the right to just take our country? And then we see right there, smack dab in Alberta, in your backyard, people who are talking about separation, people who want 51st state. So I think it's incredibly important that you stay in the conversation, that you stay in the game, because you've got a view on the ground of the place where many Canadians are afraid. Like, is Alberta going to separate? When we hear the guy on Fox News talking about Alberta, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan leaving, when we see a senator from Maine writing a letter to those premiers saying, you guys got to become part of the states. I mean, where's your head at after spending 2 months on the campaign trail and being right there in Alberta in the sort of the hotbed of separatist attitude in this country?
Right on the front line. Whether it's they come over the border and I take my rifle back up, or if I'm going to continue to fight for my neighbors in the political arena.
Mhm.
I'm not done yet. Like I said, I got to take a week of sleep first
Yeah.
before I make any final decisions. I don't know that I want to work with any parties, because giant parties are part of the problem.
Yeah.
We're getting pushed into that two-party system. So
Mhm.
maybe I stay independent. Maybe I start a new non-whipped party.
Mhm.
I don't know. I have no idea. I need to sleep first.
But what about the actual question around Alberta independence? I mean, you told me on the OShow it was a non-starter, and people across the country love that you said that so clearly. Because it feels being outside of Alberta like maybe that argument is losing. Like maybe people in Alberta are really falling for this pressure from the US, falling for these false promises, wanting to bend the knee to the dictator down there. You certainly don't want to, but should we be concerned that your fellow Albertans are starting to fall for the big con coming from the con man of all time, Donald Trump?
Remember, the empty wagon squeaks the loudest. Keep that in mind. You can tell a wagon is empty because it squeaks so dang loud, because there's not anything keeping the shocks from bumping up and down.
Right. So we're hearing a lot of noise, but you're saying there's not a lot of substance behind that. And there is
Exactly.
And there is also a politician locally, a former politician, correct, who's also trying to do a plebiscite, a referendum on staying in Canada. Is that something that you're supporting as well, that effort to
Oh yeah,
okay,
my name is on that petition.
great. Okay, and I forget the name of it, but I'll put it in the show notes for the people here. So, Bonnie, just in a
Forever Canada.
Forever Canada. Very nice. Thank you, Bonnie. So, as you see Poilievre going into Ottawa, do you have any regrets about how you handled the messaging, how you were prepared for the disinformation, how you dealt with, the party machine once it got worried and revved up against you?
No, not really, because there's nothing really I could have done. The more I fought against disinformation, or the more I would fight against disinformation, it would just pile back on me. So I just ran my race. I let them do their thing. There's some creepy guys on TikTok with some weird obsessions with me, and it's just weird and creepy and like, dude, seriously, really? Get a job. Come on.
Well, I could.
But yeah, I'm not going to respond to it. What's the point? That just makes the conversation noise. And my goal was my platform points.
Right.
It was standing up for my neighbors, not responding to the noise.
You were sending a strong signal and trying to cut through the noise and send a signal about local representation and about Canadian values. And when I posted the clip of you saying the government doesn't belong in your pants, I mean that went crazy across the country, Bonnie, because you're smart, and you're straight spoken, no
Mm-hmm.
BS, got right to the point. So do you think that there is a capacity in Canada to say we don't want this extreme conservative party that we're seeing, this negativity, this populism, this MAGA stuff, this I mean I liken what's happening in the US to fascism. I'm terrified about it. I don't want any of it here in Canada. Do you think that there's a space for people who are more centrist, who reject the extremes to say, you know what, let's protect our country and our sovereignty and our values, have disagreements, but we don't have to get into this nastiness that we're seeing corrode south of the border.
I point out that he snatched defeat from the jaws of victory with blew a 25-point lead, lost his own seat, had to retreat to one of the safest ridings in the country, and still didn't pull the numbers of an unknown backbencher.
It's wild.
So I very much think, yeah, people are getting tired of this. People are appreciating Carney's calm, quiet. I'm still on the fence because his actions aren't 100% matching his words. He said a lot, but I haven't seen a lot of action.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. So wait and see. But it's always actions over words.
Right.
And for a 20-year politician with his name attached to one bill that was overturned as unconstitutional,
Mm-hmm.
he hasn't done anything. And people are
Yeah,
seeing that. And yes, Monsieur Poilievre, and people are seeing that.
mm-hmm.
And again, he's got one of the lowest approval ratings of a conservative leader in recent history. So no, I fully expect to be back at this in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
Because and yes, I'm very well aware that if he loses the leadership, he's still an MP. He's an MP with an ego. I don't think he'll be content to not retire.
Somebody said to me, I wonder what Pierre Poilievre will be like as an Alberta politician. I said, will he be an Alberta politician?
He won't. We'll never see him again.
So do you think that he would be wise to drop some of his negativity and his sloganeering and his populist nonsense, given that he's got worse poll numbers than Carney after the election? They keep going down. If there was a poll now in Ontario, all the seats would have gone to Carney. I mean, Poilievre seems like he's losing ground, not making up any ground. Do you think he can, do you have any advice for Pierre Poilievre now that he is leading the Conservative Party and he will be the leader of the official opposition again?
All right, I'm gonna keep that thought.
Okay.
Because I want to go back to my last statement.
Mm-hmm.
And I challenged Pierre Poilievre to prove me wrong that he is never going to be here again. Mm-hmm. Prove me wrong. Right. As for him maintaining, no, he exactly. I mean, you covered all the reasons why he's going to fail in January. People want to change. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if this is a man who can grow and change. Mm-hmm. But if he wants to survive, yes, he needs to. I don't see it happening.
So you really think he's in jeopardy with the leadership?
Absolutely. So again, Monsieur Poilievre, prove me wrong.
Well, Bonnie Critchley, we'll see if he proves you wrong by showing up back in Battle-River Crowfoot, whether he's the leader or just a rank and file MP. I can't imagine he could survive that with his ego, but honestly, he wouldn't even leave Stornoway. He squatted there for months on our dime, so he's obviously really, really into being a politician, so who knows what Poilievre will do. But I know that I certainly hope for the state of our country that you'll stay engaged in the conversation. And can I just get one last thought from you about Danielle Smith and what she's doing around separation? Because people really want to hear from what's on the ground in Alberta. Do you think that she's making gains? Do you think she's in jeopardy with her own political future? What's your take on Danielle Smith right now, Bonnie?
Danielle Smith is a traitor who's selling us off a piece at a time. So we'll wait and see, because like I said, I'm not done yet.
Awesome. Well, I love that. If it's okay with you, I'm not done with you either. I'd love to have you back on the Show, whether you're running formally, independently, whatever. I'd love to just touch base with you because you're a voice that Canadians trust. And you're right there in Alberta. And I think the conversation around our sovereignty, whether Alberta separates or not, is only going to grow in the coming years. So I'd love to have you back on the Show, Bonnie. Can we have you back on sometime?
I think we can make that happen, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I know our Alberta fans especially would love to have you as a voice for Alberta here on the program. Bonnie Critchley, you reminded me of Theodore Roosevelt when he talked about the man in the arena, the person in the arena who gets in the dust and the dirt and the blood and the tears, but it's not just sitting on the sidelines criticizing. They know great victories and great defeats, but they're in the fight. And that's how I think of you, and I think how Canadians think of you, Bonnie. So thank you for your service in Afghanistan, and thank you for your service in this by-election, and we hope to hear a lot more from you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Laura. And yeah, I think we can make something work out.
Awesome. Subscribe to the show, share it. We'll hear more from Bonnie in the future. And we got to keep our eyes in Alberta and everything else that's going on. It's all about protecting our country and making our country better. And that's going to take all of us. Thanks so much, Bonnie Critchley. Take care.
Have a good day.
When you care about current affairs, it's on the Show. And when you want to get clear what's going on here, it's on the Show. If you like to stay in the know, tune yourself into the Show. It's the Show. Laura Babcock's the Show. And with a lot of great gas, she puts them to the test on the Show. Yeah, there's no doubt they'll be calling them out on the Show. You gotta stand for something or fall for it all. Canada, you hear the call of the Show. It's a podcast, the Show. Laura Babcock's the Show. Stay informed with the Show, Show.
Your merch band.